Hitman is a game with a lot of possibilities. Do you have real freedom in the Hitman games? That's the question I have actually asked myself on several occasions after playing all the Hitman games and beating almost all of them. I see comments everywhere that the game gives you so much freedom, and while I do agree to a very large extent, I also feel even stronglier that you never really have true go anywhere, do anything freedom like you might in an open world game, or even other stealth games, for example. What do I mean by this? Obviously, you can't compare Hitman to an open world game because they are very different. One's level based, and one's a giant map to explore at your own will, sometimes with gated territories. One has a map so big you need cars, planes, and wingsuits to cross them, while the Hitman games have level-based sandboxes that let you plan your approach and kill your targets in any way you'd like. But Hitman is a somewhat realistic game that doesn't give you any abilities or superpowers to let you traverse the level in such a way as Dishonored or even Sekiro let you. In those games, you have the freedom to go anywhere you want and are only limited by the level design, building height, or limit of traversal ability. Those games and more give you game mechanics like jumping, ledge grabbing, and even teleporting to help you get around the levels. And in a good, proper game, you will want to explore and get the high ground and just try to find hidden paths, all just because the game mechanics allow for real freedom to explore. I would like to argue that the Hitman series, since the beginning, always gave you a lot of options on how you'd like to play a level, but it's more of a contextual freedom that was somewhat planned by the devs. What do I mean by this, other than obviously the main and side story missions? Well, let's start with the fact that there has never been a jump button in Hitman. It's always a contextual jump where you hold the action button and the animation plays. I mean, what is this, 2006's Rogue Trooper? Don't get me wrong, I love Zombie Army and Sniper Elite games, but this feels like some dated Rebellion-style gameplay. You can only vault barricades and railings when there is a contextual button prompt, and you can only ledge hang on the very specific ledges that are usually close to the very specific pipes. This makes every command that you give Hitman into a context-sensitive developer-intended path. And to be honest, in most Hitman levels when playing, I will spot what I think is an advantageous position, but when I try to get there, I can't because the devs didn't put a button prompt they're allowing me to, which usually involves some frustration and time wasted looking for access to a path that might not even be there. Whereas on the flip side, and in a game like Dishonored, you can blink teleport around the map as long as your destination is within your ability's reach, meaning you can go around, above, below, and straight through obstacles as long as you plan it out and have a ledge within reach. In Hitman, though, you don't have any reach at all. You go up to a context-sensitive area and hold the button to let the game do it for you. Even in areas with objects that someone could clearly jump or climb onto, the game denies you full control of where you can go. I shouldn't have to explain why this is a bad thing. It severely limits what the player can do and where they can go. Why is it so hard for some developers to include jumping in their games? Yes, it will require more work and more testing to ensure players can't break the game, but when you bring up comparisons like Deus Ex, Dishonored, and even Splinter Cell, you can't help but feel that Hitman is sorely lacking in traversal options. Hitman does somewhat make up for this contextual freedom by adding tons of ways to eliminate your targets with both scripted and unscripted moments. Then again, you can't put bodies exactly where you want. You can ragdoll drag them till the cows come home, but you can't just pick them up and proceed to toss them off a cliff. What you have to do is drag the corpse to a button prompt zone that allows you to dump the body. The game has ragdoll physics. Why can't we use them effectively and just toss the enemies? Would that make the game too fun? I'm aware that the game's system of hiding bodies in containers or kicking them off cliffs is why you can drag bodies only, but it just seems like a huge missed opportunity for more fun. Again, why relegate everything to a button prompt? In my opinion, it makes the game feel less in-depth than it actually is, because you can look up at a window and wonder if you can climb into it, but unfortunately you can only climb in the one that has the pipe leading to it, and then if you're still confused, turn on Instinct Eagle Vision and it will show you the exact developer-intended path. I don't know if this is a shallow criticism or not, because ever since Silent Assassin, I have been waiting for Hitman to implement a dedicated jump button and rework the game to allow for dynamic jumping, dynamic mantling, dynamic ledge grabs, dynamic scaling, and everything that comes with a good traversal system. But then every year it's the same thing again, sometimes with the jump animation looking identical for years. You don't have to give Hitman superpowers or anything, just a fun jumping and climbing system. I think almost every fan would agree that this would be an awesome change and allow for way more freedom than the games already offer. Just picture it. You're playing a Hitman game, but with the jumping system reminiscent of Assassin's Creed or MGS5. It would be fantastic. Hell, they could even imitate Deus Ex prop physics and get Hitman to be able to stack boxes ImSim style. Now I know some will say that games like Deus Ex even have contextual freedom. When it comes to things like ladders, for example, you have to hit the use button to engage ladder climbing. But I would argue that you still have freedom since you can jump on and off the ladder at any point. It's not just a preset animation. I've thought way too long and hard about this contextual issue. All I'm saying at this point is that IO Interactive have basically nailed every other aspect of the Hitman franchise. They know how to make great missions, great levels, great characters. They consistently produce beautiful levels with big branching story missions that keep you coming back, and the overarching narrative about the Constant is also pretty interesting in its own right. So, I think the only improvement they could make is adding that new jump system that could make for endless gameplay possibilities. And if done right, it could completely carry a new title and wow an audience that may have tried Hitman in the past and found it more linear than expected. When given the tools and mechanics by the devs, players will run with it and create emergent scenarios that sometimes are even crazier than anything the devs intended in the first place. It's one of the last things they could do without completely reworking the whole franchise. And quickly on the subject of freedom, so I don't forget, why can't we wear our target's clothes as a disguise? That would make for some very interesting scenarios. I get why they don't make this an option, and it's probably for the same reason that there's no fat people in the Hitman games. So yeah, I made this video because I've never seen anyone address this issue in the 20 plus years that Hitman has been a franchise. And basically, I just kind of wanted to see if people agree with me, because Hitman games are great, but I always thought they were kind of limited to the amount of freedom people say they have. Thanks for watching.